Hey everybody, welcome back to our Kratom Addiction and Recovery Daily Devotional series. So we are in the book of Job this week, and we were there last week too. And yesterday we talked about the depths of our kratom addiction, and we looked at Job's struggle too as he was in his own depths. And today we're going to pick up where Job's friend, who he's having this discussion with, replies to him, and we're going to look at one of the things that he says. So this is in Job chapter 11, and it's going to be verses 7 through 19. Okay. Can you fathom the mysteries of God? Can you probe the limits of the Almighty? They are higher than the heavens above. What can you do? They are deeper than the depths below. What can you know? Their measure is longer than the earth and wider than the sea. If he comes along and confines you in prison and convenes a court, who can oppose him? Surely he recognizes deceivers, and when he sees evil, does he not take note? But the witless can no more become wise. Yet if you devote your heart to him and stretch out your hands to him, if you put away the sin that is in your hand and allow no evil to dwell in your tent, then free of fault you will lift up your face. You will stand firm and without fear. You will surely forget your trouble, recalling it only as waters gone by. Life will be brighter than noonday, and darkness will become like morning. You will be secure because there is no hope, and you will look about you and take your rest in safety. You will lie down with no one to make you afraid, and many will court your favor. But the eyes, that's it. And many will court your favor. Okay, so we were talking about yesterday, and just a little recap of what's going on, that Job's friends have come to see him. And they're getting into this whole discussion and debate pretty much about why Job could have ended up in this situation. And Job is, kind of defending himself through this. And so this is one of his friends who's basically, talking about it. And this whole discussion that they get into for many chapters in this book is going into the justice of God, that there must have been something that Job did to deserve this. And so his friends are talking about this, and that's what his friend is saying here. And he's talking about well, if he comes along and confines you in prison and convenes a court, who can oppose him? Surely he recognizes deceivers. And when he sees evil, does he not take note? And then it goes into yet if you devote your heart to him and stretch your hands out to him. And the reason why I chose this, because this is such a long dialogue between Job and his friends. And the reason why I chose this key point is because there is some cool stuff in here. But the main point of this too, that is the point of this whole conversation that Job is getting into with his friends, is that yes, for sure, God is just, and God, he is a God of justice. But what we learn from the book of Job is that, and what we're learning from this discussion between Job and his friends, is that sometimes things happen that, sometimes things happen to good people. And so there is an element to the book of Job where we see this man who's this upright dude that's basically perfect in God's eyes, that goes through these huge challenges and these huge struggles. And so what's the point of this? The point of it is that God is sovereign and God is in control of everything. And bad things happen to good people all the time. And so when we look at this book, when we look at what Job's friends are saying, we have to keep that in mind. And so how does this apply to where we're at in our situation? You know, guys, like, I've shared this with you before. For me, when I ended up on kratom, I thought it was this harmless thing. I hadn't even taken a Tylenol in over 10 years. I put nothing in my body that wasn't food, water, or plants. I quit drinking like 8 years before I started taking kratom. Excuse me, was I perfect? Was I blameless like Job? Heck no, I wasn't. You know, like I was coming from a background of, being in the new age for 20 years. I was studying herbalism. That's what led me into kratom. But like, you know, I was a decent person in the sense that like I wasn't looking to like get like high and strung out on kratom. I was very cautious about even considering it because quitting drinking, I didn't do any substances at that point other than weed. And so I was very particular about what I put in my body. And I had been dealing with a chronic pain condition for years that was not getting any better. And so when I came across kratom, was I perfect and blameless like Job? No, I wasn't. But I wasn't looking to like get high and addicted to kratom. And so, I'm relating it in the sense because I know a lot of you guys are going through that too. Shoot, a lot of you guys are getting off of opiates or like pain pills and heroin and all sorts of stuff and fentanyl. And a lot of you guys are going to kratom because, yeah, for sure it's better than those drugs. I'm not going to deny that. But like, then you get off of the harder stuff and then you're on kratom. And then you're stuck on kratom for multiple years and you're starting to hit that point where you're like, dude, this isn't working anymore. And so I'm relating it to what we're talking about because, I don't doubt that we all are not, perfect, but like we all are genuinely good people, I believe. We all like, yeah, again, like nobody's going to be perfect. Everybody's going to have their, their stuff that like, they've made mistakes on it or that they can work on. So I'm not saying we're like exactly like Job, but like most of us are good people. And if you've ended up in this community and on this channel, like I don't doubt that you're a good person and that you ended up on kratom, whatever the situation may be. Maybe you knew it was going to get you high, but you had anxiety or depression, or you didn't want to be on psych meds. Or like for me, the other reason too is that I lost my dad and another really close family member a year before I ended up on kratom. I had the chronic pain condition and then I had that going on. And so when I heard it helped like, for mood and stuff too, and I'm like starting to like go through really gnarly grief, I thought to myself, like, this is great. It's an herb. It's legal. Awesome. So like we are good people who ended up on this drug. I hate saying it's like this herbal supplement because I'm just saying it like it is. It's a drug that gets you high. And so like, bad things happen to good people. It is too though, because we are not blameless like Job. It is a consequence as well. I got on kratom because I was studying herbalism and I was coming from this, new age background where I was like completely idolizing plants and like worshiping nature and plants. And getting on kratom and addicted to kratom was like a consequence to that. And so there's an element of that too, but like, generally speaking, like I was a decent person and I don't doubt that you guys are too. So like bad things happens to good people, you guys, every single day. And this kratom addiction can be a bad thing that happens to good people. And Job's friend is saying like there's wisdom all throughout this book, you guys. I love it. It's one of the things that I love. And though his friends are coming from this place of like not really being good friends and pretty much accusing him of like, oh, you must have done something wrong, but like there is some wisdom to this that like can we fathom the mysteries of God? Can we understand the limits of the Almighty? And if he comes along and confines us in a prison, Who can oppose him? And for us, this can apply to us because we are not blameless. And so it's interesting to look at this because there is wisdom to this. And then it goes on to, yet if you devote your heart to him and stretch out your hands to him, and if you put away the sin that is in your hand, then free of fault, you will lift up your face, you will stand firm without fear, and you will surely forget your trouble. This happened for me, you guys. Recalling it only as waters gone by. Life will be brighter than the noonday, and darkness will become like morning. You will be secure because there is hope. You will look about you and take your rest in safety. You will lie down and with no one to make you afraid, and many will court your favor. This may be going from, a place that isn't completely right when it's coming from when it's coming from Job's friend to Job. But for us, there is a lot of wisdom, and there is a lot that we can apply personally with us that, dude, this addiction gets us. And if we do devote our heart to God, and if we stretch out our hands to him, and if we put away the sin that is in our hands and allow no evil to dwell in our tents, then free of our faults, we will lift up our faces and we will stand firm and without fear. And this happened to me. I was in a perpetual state of fear and panic and anxiety and kratom. Something really weird happened to me, especially when I got into the larger doses. And it just caused this constant state of fear and panic. And I don't know what it was. And I've heard this from other people too, who are either in addiction or have come out of it, and they reflect on this aspect of kratom, that I don't know what it is about it, you guys, but there is something for some of us that causes this horrible panic and anxiety and fear and phobias. I've even heard of people going through. I went through it. I developed a phobia, like a social phobia, that got to the point where I was basically agoraphobic and I wouldn't leave the house. I developed this phobia of driving, and which is so weird because I've been driving since I was 15 years old. I've driven back and forth across the country more times than I can even count. From the time I was 16 years old, driving across the country in big hippie vans and stuff, small little mountain roads in Northern California. I have been driving my whole life, and I developed this phobia of driving. And so, when this says that when we devote our hearts to God and lift up our hands to him, and we put the sin away that's in our hands, then free of fault, we will lift up our face and we will stand firm without fear. And that is beautiful. And I have lived it. And I am here living proof in front of you to let you know that it is possible. And it's really easy when we're in this addiction and we're experiencing these, different mental and physical things that it brings on, to think that it is us, and that this is something wrong with our minds and our bodies. And that, I thought I was I had some terminal illness because of how sick I got. And my whole mental landscape and everything about how I thought completely crumbled. And so I'm here to tell you, it's not you. Yes, there is damage that's being done to your mind and your body because of this addiction, but everything can be healed. And so I want to remind you of that if you're in that place right now where you're in the fear and you're in the sickness, everything can be healed. It takes time, but it will heal. So I wanted to talk about this, about what his friend is saying, that we have the opportunity by turning away from this sin and turning towards God and putting our sin away And that's really tough, you guys. I know how hard it is to put this addiction down. I know it. It's a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual process to get rid of this, or to move forward from this addiction. And I get it. But it is possible. It's hard, but it's possible. And when we move forward from that without that sin in our hands, like this says, then we will lift up our face and we will stand firm without fear. And it is the most amazing thing to move forward from this addiction and to stand firm without fear. I used to have like a phobia of the grocery store, or any social place, but the grocery store had like this like weird, like I couldn't do it. I would like have like panic attacks and stuff. And now I work in a natural grocery store that I've always loved, natural foods and that kind of thing. And I worked at this same natural grocery store 15 years ago. And I now work there again. And I have the opportunity to like stand firm and to not be afraid. And it is the most beautiful experience. So know that it is possible. And I love how this ends, that life will be brighter than noonday and darkness will become like morning. You will be secure because there is hope. You will look about you and take rest in safety. You will lie down with no one to make you afraid, and many will court your favor. We were talking about the depths and the darkness yesterday. And like it says here, life will be brighter than noonday and darkness will become like morning. And this is true, you guys. When we're in this darkness and these depths, it's hard to imagine the dawn, but it will come and it will be so beautiful. And we will be secure because there is hope, and we will look about us and take rest in our safety. And we will no longer live in fear, like I was saying. And we will lie down and no one will make us afraid. And many will court our favor. And I've also experienced this. The way that I'm able to relate and to connect to people now, it's incredible. And, I've experienced, being in the favor of others. And I don't say this, proudly. I say this humbly because God has brought me to this place. So we're going to end on this positive note that, life will be brighter than noonday and the darkness will become like morning. Especially after yesterday's devotional, it's really cool to end on this note today. And I know the darkness, you guys. I know the depths. I know how hard it is to let go of this sin. I know how hard it is to move forward and to not be afraid anymore. But be encouraged that it is possible. And so we're going to end on that note today. And I encourage you to let us know how you're doing in the comment section below. And I love you guys, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.